Hi everyone, welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing podcast on Friday the 9th of September, the day before the intended running of the St Leger in the UK. We know we're definitely going to have the Royal Bahrain Irish Champion Stakes and also some excellent racing at the Curragh on Sunday. For obvious reasons, we're going to push Doncaster to the back of the pile because we're not absolutely certain that is going to take place this weekend. So if you're joining us looking for Doncaster, and that is taking place this weekend, hold your horses. We'll be pushing that to the back of affairs. We know that Ireland is going to take place, of course, and some excellent racing it is. So that's where we're going to begin. A word on declarations for Sunday at the Curragh. We don't have them as yet, so we'll be having just a Sunday section with regard to the action at the Curragh. So Leopardstown is the main chunk of this. Welcome to everyone we've got with us today. Steve Jones, Declan Ricks, Donn McClean, excellent team assembled, in particular to tackle Irish Champions Weekend. Let me remind you before we get stuck in to have a look at the other side of the fence with Ollie Murphy and our very own Charlie Post. It's an excellent episode on a horse coming to be broken in at Station Yard at Charlie Post from the sales. If you haven't seen how they do that, it's well worth taking a look at. I found it thoroughly interesting. As somebody that works in horse racing, I still didn't know the ins and outs of that. Please do like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and our podcast channel as well, or via your preferred podcast app, and give us up to a 5-star review on that. It makes all the difference for us. And head to insights.matchbook.com for all the podcast best bets, and we'll detail the layout of the podcast in there for you as well, whether or not the racing takes place at Doncaster tomorrow. Okay. Let's just get stuck straight into the preview because it's the racing that we're here for, and it's very, very good. In particular, the Royal Bahrain Irish Champion Stakes. Don't know if we have a market for this currently. We don't at the moment. Okay, so I'll give the prices very shortly. One thing I want Rixie to just kick on if we can, perhaps. Weather and running of the race, Rixie. So you can take it away with this. Go on. How do you see it panning out, and on what ground?
Well, it looks like Leopardstown have had an awful lot of ground. I think I saw a video yesterday of Lorcan Weir, who's clerk of the course there at Leopardstown on the IHRB social media feed, saying they've had over 100 mils over the last week. That is a lot of rain. I think they've got more overnight. So. If I am correct in that, sorry, I'm not 100% sure on that. I apologize. But if they are, I think it's going to ride kind of genuine, soft, kind of autumnal ground. I think if you're coming to Irish Champions Weekend this week, looking for fast ground, you're not going to get it. So I think horses who handle a good cut in the ground and horses who stay are going to be the order of the day.
John, do you have anything? Sorry, Rixie. Just I know you're more local than any of us, and you're going to be there. I know. Do you have anything on how much rain they've had and what you're expecting conditions wise?
Well, I'd say of that 100 millimeters of rain, most of it fell in our garden. It's like a bog at the back of our house, which we're about 20 minutes from the track. So yeah, there's been plenty of rain. I didn't know the 100 millimeters, but yeah, there's been plenty. They're calling it yielding to soft. So definitely echo what Declan says. It's going to be like all theories and all form analysis based on, ground, at least easy ground and possibly soft ground.
Okay, so the Daney currently is 2.0, Mishriff is 5.0, Luxembourg 5.5, Ernesto 9.0, Alan Kerr 21.0, 34's the Aidan O'Brien pair, Broome and Stone Age. Rixie, back to you. I'm sure you're going to take us through the running of the race and your selection as well, please.
Look, I think Broome, as long as he's not slow away, will probably maybe make the run with Stone Age. I think Broome has got more chance of winning here. So if I'm Aidan O'Brien, with Broome dropping back down to 10 furlong on soft ground, I'm hoping Stone Age sets a good gallop, a good even gallop in front. Broome just tracks him, and they go a probably strong gallop because Broome is dropping in trip. Broome can be slow away. We saw that in America on his last start. He really kind of gave himself a little chance of winning the last day in America, given how slow away he was again. The positive is he's drawn, I think, 7 out of 7. So if he is slow away again, he can come around the field and maybe make the running. So that is a positive. I don't know. You'd think it's going to be a good run race. If if Ballydoyle and Coolmore want Broome to win, they have to go a strong gallop for him over this trip to win, because he just doesn't have the class or the pace of the market leaders. At the prices, I probably want to take on Vidani. I just think his last 2 wins, while they've been good, I think that everything's kind of gone his way in the Prix de Jockey Club, Modern Games, and was it El Bogan of James Ferguson's? They took each other on, kind of softened each other up. A lot of good horses sat out of their ground that day. The last day at Sandown in the Coral Eclipse, again, I thought he got a very good Christophe Soumillon ride. A lot of bad rides from British jockeys in that race, because they all stuck to the rail at Sandown. For me, this season, the rail at Sandown on the sprint course, and especially on the normal course, the rail's been dead. Everything's been finishing wide and late at Sandown this year. So it was a mystery to me why the likes of Tom Marquand and Alan Kerr dived down the rail and stayed there. And there was a headwind that day as well. Christophe Soumillon got him covered up to the last minute and came home well. So look, I just think I want to take him out. And the other thing with him is his last 2 victories have been on much quicker ground. Mishriff I want to take on. I don't think he's the same horse as last year. I think he's better on quick ground. He's still a good horse, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's in the same form. And I think he wants faster ground. So I'm left with Luxembourg. He was one of the rare Ballydoyle 3-year-olds coming into this classic season that I was excited about. Every year, which is understandable, we get the kind of the PR machine coming through. This could be the next best thing, blah blah blah. But with Luxembourg, I did kind of believe it. I was excited about him, so I was gutted when he got injured in the Guineas. Stumbled in that race. Thankfully, he came back and made a nice return in the Royal Whip Stakes. That form isn't massive. He's going to need to improve. But, I just think the way he looked in good form. I loved how he quickened away from plenty of the field. And, you expect him to come forward for that. So Luxembourg is going to be the main play. I think Alan Carr as well, with the ground getting soft, is a play at a big price. Couple of reasons. I think in the Coral Eclipse, making the running clearly didn't suit him. Tom Marquand didn't go quick enough either. And the ground was probably fast enough. I think him getting a lead off Stone Age and maybe Broome is going to really suit him back on softer ground and a stronger gallop. So Luxembourg, the main play, but I'll definitely be back in Alencar as well at a big price, because I think this race will set up better for him as well.
And Steve, you agree on that first selection?
Yeah, I do. I don't agree with Rixie about Alencar. I think he'll be one of the ones making the running. That's especially on the soft ground. He just likes to go from unless, of course, if the 2 outsiders of Aidan O'Brien's Stone Age and the other one, Broome, will go too fast to set it up for Luxembourg. And I think it's shaping up to be one of those kind of races that Aidan O'Brien's going to control and try and set it up for Luxembourg. And at the end of the day, the only time he's been beaten was when he was 3rd in the Guineas. And that's still really good form. And he looked for all the world like he wanted to go up in distance. He got that last time. I mean, he's had problems, obviously, but he's had that prep race. And I just think he's very solid. I do respect Vidani a hell of a lot. I thought the fast ground was the reason to take him on at Sandown, but he coped with that. But getting back on softer ground certainly suit the French horse Vidini, and he's a real high class horse. So it's just the prices really that I think they're too far apart, and Luxembourg should definitely be second favourite above Mishriff, who, like Rixie said, I don't think he's quite got the same attitude, perhaps, because he's been around the world a few times, and I think that's taken its toll on him. So he should definitely be second favourite Luxembourg, and a fair bit closer to Vidini in the betting. So for that reason, at the prices, it's Luxembourg.
Don and I are in agreement with Mishriff, and I'll just talk about one thing in particular, Don, because you know the track very, very well. I think one of the most interesting things is what Christophe Soumillon does on Vidini. I just had a chat with Racing TV colleague Fran Berry, who took me back to 2005, where Christophe Soumillon rode Azamor, Oratorio won the race, and for all Azamor was drawn wide, Christophe got in a bit of trouble and ended up darting up the inner. Fast forward 11 years to 2016, where he rode Almanzor to win the race, and he stayed wide, kept wide, learned his lesson, got it absolutely spot on. Now he's on ultimately I think he's going to ride the horse similarly, Vidani, as he did in the Coral Eclipse and hold him up. But he's drawn 2, and you go straight into a bit of a kink, and he's going to have in his mind, right hand rein, get out and try and sit. Don't sit on the rail, because he knows how he's going to want to produce this horse. But he's got a horse like Mischief on his outside, and Colin Keane knows how to ride the track, and he'll be aware of where Vidani is every step of the way. What I'm building into is I think it's a much harder ride for Christophe Soumillon, and I want to take him on at the prices. And I think there's too much between him on their Sandown running between Vidani and Mishrif. So for that reason, I'm with Mishrif. But I do think, Don, that's one of the most interesting aspects of the race is what Soumillon does from 2.
Yeah, no, look, it's fascinating, this race, isn't it? Like it's just you can play out different potential scenarios, and not even the riders know how it's going to play out. I'm sure they all have different scenarios in their minds as well. But for me, yeah, I'm with you, Tom, with Mischief. And for me, the tipping point, or the point in his favour, was Colin Keane. I was with Luxembourg until I saw Colin. Like it was a marginal call for me between Luxembourg and Mischief, but Colin Keane on your side, as Tom says, like, look, he's a world class rider. He's riding out of his skin. He knows Leopardstown intimately. Like, he was brilliant on this day last year, both from the front and from the rear. He just played the hand he was dealt. He rode the horses depending on how the race developed. He was on the inside on one of his winners, and he dropped back early on. And I was thinking, what's he doing dropping back? But anytime you think what Colin Keane is doing, you're wrong, and he's right. No, I agree with the lads. I think Broome's going to go forward. I wouldn't really worry about him missing the break the last time in America. It's America, and it's different stalls and everything. So he'll probably go forward. Stone Age likes to go forward as well. So you can see those two leading early on, and maybe Alan Carr not far behind them. But definitely Aidan O'Brien is going to want a strong pace for Luxembourg, who stays really well. And the ground for Luxembourg is fine. He won the Virtum Futurity last year on soft ground, so he's fine. Mischief, interesting on the ground, what the lads are saying. Like, he did win on heavy ground as a 3-year-old in France. He's by make believe, his progeny tend to like it, and I don't think it's concluded. I know a quote ground about wanting faster ground, but I think he might be okay on the ground. And look, maybe he's not the same horse he was. He probably should have won the Eclipse. He just didn't get the run of the race. By the time he got out and got going, but Amy had first run on him, and he only went down by a neck in the end. It was a big run. He was beaten next time, the King George, but he completely missed the break that day. You can easily allow him that, and it's a 1.5 miles anyway. It's not his optimum trip. He's back over his optimum trip. He was beaten by Baid the last day. You can allow any horse a defeat to Baid. So I just think at the price, I'm willing to give him another chance, one more chance, because Colin Keane isn't. Like, it's a very astute move by John Gosling to book Colin Keane. I think it's a massive addition to Mishrif at this track in this race. And as you're saying, Tom, like, Leopardstown, to me anyway, his riding career is limited. It looks like a very tricky track to ride, because you don't want to be too wide around the bend, but you don't want to get swamped on the inside. And sometimes horse jockeys are around the inside and it opens up, and then the lads who've given away ground by going wide, they're at a disadvantage. And we've seen it time and time again in this race. Obviously, famously, Galileo and Fantastic Light. Remember, High Chaparral beat Falbrav. That was a messy finish to the race. Mick Kinnan at his best. So it's a fascinating race. I'm dying to see how this race plays out. But for me, at the prices, I'm willing to give Mischief another chance.
As this is the race we're majoring on, does anybody want to come in with anything? You don't have to. Good.
I just asked Don. Sorry, there's obviously 2 tracks at Leopardstown, isn't there? Some years they've ridden. The first 4 races have been on the inside track, and then the last 4, I think, have been on the outside track. I think, was it last year they switched all the races to the outside track? Is that the same this year? As ever with Irish racing, information is very hard to find.
I don't know, like, no more than at the Curragh, Declan. When you go, you don't know what track they're on at the Curragh until you get there and see where the stalls are and where the wind post is. Yeah, like we should know, but yeah, and they could switch it, because we're only Friday morning. I don't know is the answer, but when the ground is soft on the path, the first 4 races on the inside, and the last 4, including the Matron and the Irish Champion Stakes, both the 2 Group 1 races on the outside. So yeah, I don't know is the answer.
Because there's been a couple of Irish Champions meetings at Leopardstown where, remember, everything coming wide, like very wide, was finishing a lot faster than everything. Even Ryan Moore, I think, in his early years at Ballydoyle, probably with Irish Champions Weekend, probably struggled to ride Leopardstown well. Remember Minding, she got caught up in a lot of trouble that her year, and it can get messy there. But sorry, I just wanted to know, did Donn know?
No,
it's an interesting question, and we'll let
you
know.
Good point. On soft ground, you definitely want to be wide at Leopardstown, but yet on fast ground or good ground, especially during the summer when the track is on the inside, it's very difficult to come from the back. I mean, I've marked up horses in the past who've made ground from the rear in those races where the track is tight and pace is rewarded. It's very difficult to make up from the outside.
Okay, we move on to the Boomerang Miles. So prices as follows. Jadumi and Boundless Ocean sit 2.75 at the top of the betting. Interesting, Just Beautiful now with Patingo is 5.5. Radeborg is 9.0. Georgeville 13.0. Bigger prices the rest. I literally copied and pasted everything Donn had written on the document, I'm afraid to say, Donn. But I'm with you on Boundless Ocean. I suppose the reason being, I thought it was between the top two in the betting, Donn, and I just felt that Jadumi probably won a slightly soft race last time, and it's a quick enough backup for him. And Boundless Ocean, Jim tried to make him into a Derby horse, didn't work out. Maybe this is his trip.
Yeah, I was sure be with Jadumi, Tom. Were you with him at Goodwood the last time when he won the celebration?
Yeah. It was a soft race, that wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. I think Boundless Ocean, I think only now he's starting to get due recognition. Like, he's won the 2 Group 3 races at Leopardstown, the Mel and the Desmond Stakes. And I know Juncture for me was a bit disappointing next time, the filly that he beat in the Desmond Stakes. I thought she would have gone and won at the Current next time. But Charterhouse, John Murphy's horse, who finished 3rd, he went and won at Killarney next time and won the Ruby Stakes. So it was working out well. But more than that, like he's probably, he reminds me a lot of Famous Name. He's kind of a 9 furlong type horse, Boundless Ocean, and he's had lots of racing now. He's only 3, but I think he's getting better. And the last day, like a fast run race over a mile or over 9 furlongs, that seems to suit him well. I don't mind his draw outside and stall 8. I think it's a positive for him because Kevin Manning then can just allow him do whatever the race dictates that he do. If there's not much pace on, he can go forward, he can lead. He doesn't have to lead either, so he can sit in if there is a good pace on, but he's going to be handy, which to me is a positive. And yeah, I think he's still an improving horse. The Jadumi is a big danger for me because he did battle on well to be the stable companion last time, Finest Sound at Goodwood, and he will handle the ground. It was easy ground that day at Goodwood, but I think Boundless Ocean is just potentially a better horse and still improving. Just Beautiful she's fascinating. She won the Scepter Stakes last year for Ivan Furtado, her last run for him. She's now since joined Paddy Toomey, races in the Moidler stud colours, Billy Another Man on Fire riding her. So she's very, very interesting, but I don't think they've taken too many chances with her. She's only a 4-to-1 shot or thereabouts. So I think she's a really interesting runner, but I prefer have the 3.2 or 3.3 about Boundless Ocean.
You are, Steve, with Just Beautiful.
Yeah, I am. It's one of those races that I found quite tricky to get a handle on. So I was going to take a chance with Just Beautiful, who did very well last season for Ivan Furtado, and has since switched to Paddy Toomey, who we all know has been in sensational form all season. And this horse did win first time out last year for Ivan Furtado, albeit on Chelmsford on the all weather. So, but I think with this form of the stable, you can kind of expect Just Beautiful to be ready, especially this time of the season. There's no point coming out and not being ready, you would have thought. And Just Beautiful was very progressive last season, ended up winning this weekend or this week last year in the Scepter Stakes at Doncaster. And that was a really taking performance, albeit on faster ground, but it's got form on softer ground, and certainly Just Beautiful's pedigree. She is bred to handle at least softer ground. So I was going to take a chance with her, and she's not a huge price, of course, but I think if she has improved a little bit for the break and is ready to go, I think she's got a real player, because Boundless Ocean's been in good form. but I don't think what he's been showing has been a mile in front of everything else. And Jadumi, that celebration mile that Jadumi won last time, I should think Jadami could have won that. It was pretty ordinary race, I think.
He's always good for a line, is Jonesy. 2 shouts for Boundless Ocean, 1 for Just Beautiful. Rixie's sitting this one out, so I'll bring him in on the Matron first of all when we come to it. So Homeless Songs is currently a 2.1 shot. Saffron Beach is 3.5. Tenebrism over a mile, 9.0. And Pearls Galore 17.0, bigger prices the rest. Rixie, go on, take us through this. Good renewal, this, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a good renewal. I think in both Homeless Songs and Saffron Beach, Homeless Songs at 3-year-old, Saffron Beach at 4 years, you've got 2 genuinely top class European fillies who are both going to go to the Breeders' Cup as well by the looks of it. Look, I think just in terms of raw ability, there is absolutely no doubt those 2 are probably a little bit clear. Tenebrism, but Tenebrism over a mile on soft ground, I'm more than happy to take her on, to be honest. I'm a little surprised I'm actually a little surprised if she's going to run, but as we know, as always with the Coolmore partners, they always support Irish Champion weekends heavily. I have Homeless Songs, what she did in the Irish 1000 Guineas was sensational. If she recaptures that form, I think she's going to win. Just with her, she hasn't raced in 111 a days. That's maybe a little worry. The reason she hasn't is obviously because of fast ground. Dermot Well hasn't wanted to run her, but it's not easy kind of prepping horses like that. She might have been ready to run a couple of times here and there throughout the season, but the ground was too quick, so they didn't go. And as well, reading in between the lines, she's a hard filly to keep right. So I just wonder, it's going to be some training performance from Dermot Weld if he gets her to win again. And the other thing with Homeless Songs, I think this is going to be the softest ground she's ever run over a stiff mile. I just wonder, given all the pace that she clearly has and the class that she has, could she potentially be late if this is a strong run race? Just see her stamina ebbing away. So look, I think there's potentially room for this race to kind of blow apart. Saffron Beach, this is definitely going to be the softest ground she's run on in a long time as well. I think like a lot of those new bays, she's much better on a much quicker surface. So I just think this race could potentially blow out. I would love to see a strong run gallop here. We might get it. Pearls Galore likes to go forward. She's got first time cheek pieces in. On Saffron Beach likes to go forward. Agartha likes to go forward. So does Panama Red. I think if this race is strongly run on soft ground, it's been a long time since Lights On has got that set up. And as we saw at Pontefract last year when she won on soft ground, she beat Agincourt by 10 lengths. She clearly thrives under these conditions. I think maybe she could run into a place at least, and maybe if the top 2 don't fire for whatever reason, cause an upset. I think it's very interesting that Sir Michael Stout and his team considered her good enough to run in the Queen Anne this year behind Baid. She hasn't been seen since then. That ground at Royal Ascot was clearly way too quick for her. But before that, she has shown to be a very, very likeable filly, straightforward, honest, but she just hasn't had her conditions. A mile, stiff track, soft ground, off a strong gallop. She might get that all together here on Saturday. And, I think we haven't got prices there, but I've seen some 33s, 28s, 25s around her. I could see her massively outrunning that price, especially if she's in good order.
Yeah, 34.0 win and place. Don, you and I are with the filly at the top of the market. You also like one at a bigger price?
Yeah, look, I echo a lot of what Steve said about Homeless Song. Like, she's just she's such a
Steve didn't even say anything, Don. Bloody hell.
Yeah, the positives there. No, I wouldn't worry about the trip, like her run on the Guineas. There was a bit of a concern going into the Guineas about the trip, but Chris Hayes never had any doubts. He said beforehand, he said afterwards, obviously said afterwards, he said beforehand as well, he had no doubt about the trip. And just the performance that she put up that day was phenomenal, beating the Oaks winner Tuesday in the second place. And like, she's a filly who has been kind of highly regarded for a long time. She made when she made her 2-year-old debut back in July, she was really impressive in beating Agartha, and she kind of tapered off a wee bit towards the end of last season. But then this season she was back and winning the Guineas trial, and then what she did in the 1,000 Guineas, like she travelled so well through a race. She was always the most likely winner. She always had room to her outside, so Chris Hayes could do what he wanted to do. And when he asked her to pick up, it was that turn of foot that she showed to come away from her rival. It was kind of an easy side that day as well. Dermot Wild has been wanting soft ground for her, and significantly, the Dermot Wild horses are back in form now. They had a really quiet time through the season, but he's had 6 winners now in the last, I think, from his last 12 or 13 runners. So the yard is flying really, which is great coming into this stage of the season. So I think she's the right favourite. Look, Saffron Beach is a very talented filly, and she's progressing as well. Progressed towards the end of last season and continued that progression this season, it appears. But I just think Homeless Songs she's got that kind of superstar status. China Brisbane, agree with the lads on the trip. I'm not certain if fast run mile on soft ground up Leopardstown's hill, she just might be found wanting inside the final half furlong. She's a top class 7 furlong filly. And Pearls Galore, like, went really close to winning entrance last year. She's a big player as well. And the pace will be strong. I think Agartha will probably lead, and then the other prominent races will sit in behind her. But yeah, I just think Affogato, she probably, it's correct that she's a big price for this because there's a lot of unknown about her, but she's only had 4 runs, and her 2 runs, first 2 runs for Gerald Lyons were very, very good. She was seriously impressed winning at Fairs, beating San Andreas and Ace Aussie now. And Ace Aussie is jumping hurdles now, and San Andreas maybe didn't run quite up to his mark, but he's a 100-odd rated horse, and she just quickened right away from him. You can allow her run the last day in the Brownstown Stakes because it looked like she was going to be involved, and her saddle slipped. So that looks like a blip on her card, but you can just put a line through it. It just, Colin Keeney eased up on her close home. So I just think she's like Geraldine says, she's a very light filly. She doesn't take a lot of work, but she's got talent and she's got a turn of foot. And yeah, I just think of a fast pace, I'd say Colin Keeney will ride a call. Like he definitely had the choice between her and Panama Red. And Panama Red, to me, like she ran a big race on this day last year. She won the Ingabel Stakes, the listed juveniles race. Sprang a bit of a surprise that day. So he's chosen to ride Affogato in front of Panama Red. So yeah, I can see her running better than 40 to 1 or thereabouts.
Yeah, 51.0 for Affogato. I'm with you on Homeless Songs and genuinely have nothing to add. Steve?
Yeah, I just I wanted to take Homeless Songs on purely because it's going to be quite testing. She hasn't run for a good while. She looked exceptional, and I was looking forward to her running at Royal Ascot, which obviously she was ruled out of and hasn't run since winning the Irish Guineas. But it was just the prices really, because I think Saffron Beach will run her race, and she's so consistent. She seems to be improving all the time. She's with a top-class trainer in Jane Chapel-Hyam, and she has won on soft ground, although most of her racing has been done on better ground. She has won on soft ground. She's by New Bay, and there's a lot of soft ground in her pedigree. So I just thought she was the one that would definitely run a race, and she's very high class, and she's very tough, and I love her. I think she's exceptionally good, and I think Homeless Songs will have to be on a top game to beat Saffron Beach, and for that reason, I'm going with Saffron Beach.
Ollie Murphy is to me as Jane Chapel-Hyam is to Steve.
Oh no, I've taken her down. It's Fred Archer.
Up there, yeah. Fred's gone back up. Okay. Any other bets for Leopardstown, gentlemen? Steve, I know you've got something.
Yeah, I just thought the first and last races I was looking at, and the first race, Dermot Wild had a couple of once race fillies in there who'd but one on debut. One I think runs or is likely to run in the Moyclair stud on the Sunday. But he on the first race in the Ingabel Stakes, he runs a horse called Kayana, who I was really impressed with at Limerick on debut 3 months ago. And since then, the form's worked out really well. The placed horses have both won twice since. And although I'm not a massive fan of once race horses going into group races, this is a slightly lower level listed race. And she looks very high class. And I was surprised that she wasn't favourite. So for that reason, Kayana in the first race. And shall I move on to the last race?
Please do.
Yeah, the Patingo Handicap. Well, it's a horse there of Ger Lyons, and Ger Lyons obviously had a good meeting this weekend last year, and he's got License in there off top weight, who ran pretty badly in the Ebor, but I think that was purely down to the ground. License was a big drifter in the Ebor, I think doubled in price, and I think the fears about the ground were realised. Before that, it ran a really nice race, went fourth in the Ballyroan, the Group 3 at Leopardstown over 1.5 miles. As a warm-up race, and License really picks his knees up. He likes soft ground. He's got a really good Juddmonte pedigree, and I think he's better than a handicapper. I mean, you have to be to win this off top weight, but now the ground is turned, I think License is very interesting, and he's quite a nice price. And looking down, he was about 17.0, something like that. I don't anticipate him going off at double figures, to be quite honest. I think License has got a really good chance.
Okay, first and last race there for Steve. Happy to move on to Sunday, everyone? Good. Okay, so Sunday, because we don't have decks, we're not going to go through race by race, but just a few going up. So Don and I are looking at the Flying Five, as you do. Don, you can kick us off with your selection.
Yeah, it's a romantic proposal, Tom. Like she's just when she has her conditions, like, and actually it used to be that she was a confirmed soft ground horse, but she doesn't seem to need soft ground as much as she used to. Just ground that's not on the fast side, that seems to suit her well. But like, she started off life as a miler, which is quite incredible, really. She started, she ran off the 80s when she started off running in handicaps, but she's improved tremendously. She won this race last year. This season she started off at an ace and she looked brilliant. She just traveled so well through a race and quickened up smartly, won easily with way more in hand than about a length winning margin. So she proved that she retains all her ability. She's been off the track, so she's obviously had her issues this season, and she returned in the July Cup where she was well beaten, but you can allow her that 6 furlongs, fast ground, her first run back after a long break. So if she's back to anything near the form, well, it goes without saying she won the race last year. So if she is back in that type of form, she's going to take another beating. It goes really well. Chris Hayes gets on really well with her. He struck up a fantastic relationship with her. She's a horse that needs to be dropped out and delivered really late. And Chris Hayes, in one of the races last year at the Curragh, I think it was in the duty free, the Dubai duty free and Derby weekend. He was watching the race live. You'd think he just overdone it, but once he asked her to pick up, he knows her, the turn of foot he has. And Ed Bynum, of course, not a surprise that he's got a fast filly. So yeah, I think Highfield Princess is going to be a big danger if she comes over. But I think Romantic Proposal, she's got the title, and I think she's the one they have to beat.
And it looking like, I mean, I think it's yielding at the moment. I mean, there's lots of rain around. It could rain all day at the Curragh. I thought that would really suit Castle Star, who's got Jamie Spencer on board, as was the case at Newmarket in the Middle Park at the back end of last year, when second to Perfect Power, form that we know has worked out very well. Jamie Spencer rode that day. He's back on board, 21.0 on ground, which is definitely going to suit. I mean, the horse has been taken out of a good few races this year, including last weekend, but he's got to be ready to go, and he's got good course form as well. I think that's a big price, 21.0 for Castle Star. Steve?
I was looking at the Irish Ledger, and I mean, obviously we haven't got the final decks, but I thought it was, the favourites got.
If you give me, I think we do. I think they're just coming through. I mean, obviously we haven't had them to study, but go on. Who do you fancy?
Hamish, I thought, was very interesting. I know Kyprios is outstanding, but Hamish is always threatened to be a good horse, and it has had a few problems, but William Haggis seems to be able to get it when he's right. He runs him. He doesn't run very often, but he generally goes on his best form, and he's always been a horse that handles testing ground, and I just think that this kind of race could be perfect for him. And if you go back to last September, he beat Hookham on the all-weather in the September Stakes at Kempton, and Hookham's obviously gone on to win Group 1s. And so he has got reasons to think that he can be competitive at this level. And so I thought Hamish was, had a chance.
Richard King's got booked to ride, and about 9.0 for Hamish in that Irish Ledger. Okay, that is Irish Champions Weekend done and dusted. Let me tell you about the sign-up offer. first of all. Sure, you're fully aware of it by now. Sign-up offer is a £30 welcome offer with money back as a free bet if your first bet loses. As I say each and every week, it's well worth taking advantage of if you don't have a Matchbook account because it's for new customers only, but you're likely to be getting better odds with the nature of the Matchbook exchange, as we prove to you all the time. So if you do fancy something, it's well worth opening up an account, having a bet up to £30, and if that doesn't win, getting your better odds, then you get your stake back as a free bet. If it does win, happy days. The full terms and conditions are on the Matchbook website. 18 plus, be gamble aware. Doncaster we go. So as we say, we don't know current plans at the moment, but we'll preview it. Is it happening this weekend? But perhaps without too much content, just in case fields change in any way, and it does get moved to another day next week. We will start with the 145, which is the Portland Handicap. Nice big field this. So rather than giving you prices, I'll just give the prices of the selections when they come in. Declan.
Yes, sir. The Portland. Sorry, I thought we were going to go with the Leger. Please bear with me. Yeah, no, basically the Portland, plenty of pace on the cross the track here. Going to be a well-run race. I think you're probably going to suit hold-up horses, I think. Yeah, nothing fancy for me here. I like Roger Teal's horse when the deal is done. I just think he comes into the race in seriously good order. What he did the last day at Ascot under Daddy Tut Up was very impressive. He's by Dark Angel out of Maureen, who was that good filly for the Hannons a number of years ago. He's bred to be better than 100. He's got £10 for his last win at Ascot. He probably deserved it, to be fair, because he absolutely bolted up. It just looks like maybe now things are starting to click into gear with him. Daddy Tut Up keeps the ride again, which is a positive. The draw on 20 probably would have liked to be maybe drawn, 10, between 9 or 12 or somewhere in the middle somewhere, just to give Danny more options. The draw is maybe a little bit of a worry, but basically I just think it looked like last time out everything's starting to click into gear now, and as I said, he's bred to be better than 100. So yeah, he'll do for me.
And Don, you agree?
Yeah, a lot of what Declan said there. He's just a progressive horse. He's got £10, but it was a Class 2 handicap that he won the last day, and he won it really, really impressively. And like, he's a coming horse. He'd run well at Nottingham the time before that and fast ground. I kind of oscillated around this a bit. Chipstead, he was really impressive winning at Sandown last time, but again, he's stepping markedly up in class, even though he's only £8 higher, but he's gone up into a top class handicap from a Class 4, so he's going to have to probably improve on that. And Intrinsic Bond was also on my list, but he was so disappointing at Thirst the last day, a track at which he's run well before. And Tracy Tortoise, that just have been running that well recently, but he could bounce back form, and he's a big price as a result of the fact that he's coming into the race on the back of a poor run, but he was on a good upward curve before that, so he is interesting. But I kept on coming back to win the deal in zone. Like, he hasn't won at Doncaster before, but he's got good form there, and the fact that he won so well at Ascot the last day, Ascot and Doncaster, they're similar tracks, and it was easy ground the last day at Ascot, so that's not a negative you wouldn't have thought. So like, he's 6.0 or thereabouts. It's a really competitive handicap, but I think that's fair, and I wouldn't worry too much about the draw. As Declan was saying, like, I think yesterday they tended to come middle to near side. They were coming in the middle early. Near side seems to definitely prefer high than low, given the choice. So yeah, I think he's the right favourite.
When the dealing's done 6.0, Steve, Count D'Orsay 15.0.
Yeah, Count D'Orsay, I think it's got a really good chance now that there is a bit of rain around, and it's not going to be desperate at Doncaster, but there is a bit more rain around, and it's already good to soft, and any more rain would certainly help Count D'Orsay, because he's been running okay this summer, but on faster ground, and he does have a much better record on softer ground. And the great thing is, because he's been inconvenienced by the faster ground, he slipped in the weights quite a lot. And last time at York, he just had no chance. He was drawn 20 and stuck to the stand side rail, and you just couldn't win, or couldn't be competitive. So I've put a line through that. And before that, if you look at his form, he ran okay behind Manican, who's come out and franked the form. The fourth at Chester to look out Louis and Manican, it's worked out really well, and he was only beaten 3 lengths that day. And if you go back to last season and last year's Portland Handicap, he was third behind Hurricane Ivor and Boundless Power. And those two both won their next start. And in Boundless Power's case, won his next 2 starts. So the form of that was red hot. And he came from off the pace that day to finish third. He's rated 96 that day. I think he's rated 88 now. So he's £8 lower. And the fact that he's going to get a red hot pace, like Rixie said, there's pace a lot across the track. He's drawn 5. I'd prefer he be drawn a bit higher, but Night on Earth, who does go fast early on, is drawn 1. So he has, and last year they went in one, they didn't split. They went in one group. So that should be okay for Count D'Orsay. And I just think he's way overpriced. He's at 15.0, was he, or something? The other one that I was toying with, who I'm still not convinced about his attitude totally, was a Nomadic Empire, who ran very well in that York race last time. And then
it's my selection, Steve.
Yeah, I was toying with the pair of them, but I just think Count D'Orsay has, with the ground in his favour and the fact that he's dropped in the weights. But I do think Nomadic Empire run a good race because there is loads and loads and loads of pace in here, and that'll suit both of them.
Yeah, and Nomadic Empire, if you look at that race 2 starts ago, you needed to be up there, and he made a big move. He switched. I think the rider got a ban for careless riding. He just ran out of puff a bit. I think the 5.5 is what he wants, and there's a lot of pace on to suit him. Last time you couldn't get into it on very quick ground, so that wasn't going to suit him. I wouldn't want it to go too soft for him. He's a massive price at about 26.0. I thought Nomadic Empire, particularly on that York run 2 starts ago. And just on Giles's comment, he says, Project Dante, anyone? Brian Smart has turned a corner. Really looked hard at this horse. Brian Smart, he had a double again recently. He is going along very nicely. My only thing that put me off Giles was I think these sprint handicaps for 3-year-olds are tough against older horses. And I know Oxted did it a couple of years ago, but he was a subsequent Group 1 performer. And I don't know whether Project Dante is quite that, but I did look long and hard at him, if that's of any help.
I actually looked at him as well. He's definitely handicapped to win, isn't he? Just the last, he was pulled out by the vets at Haydock, wasn't he? So they obviously didn't like what they see, and then that's a worry to me because the time before that, when Holly Doyle rode him at York, he hung very badly, but like he still hung badly and he got way out of his ground, but he still wasn't beaten too far. So I can see that. I can definitely see Project Dante. I think he's by showcasing, so maybe just getting back on some easier ground is maybe going to help him. But yeah, if there was a little bit of market support for him, he's one of the wild price who could maybe cause an upset, because I remember backing him at Royal Ascot last year, thinking he was going to be a seriously good 2-year-old, because I think he won on debut at York, and his performance on the clock that day was unbelievable for a first-time starter. But yeah, no, I think he's interesting, Giles. Yeah,
he's a stereotypical 3-year-old who's going to find life tough, and then next year I think he could do quite well. But he's one to keep an eye on for sure.
Okay, let's move on. Did you have anything else to come back in on, Steve, or was that it?
No, that was it. Thanks.
Yeah, grand job. Okay, the Champagne Stakes do have prices for this, so let me read them out. It's very exciting prices. Silver Knot is 1.87, a 2.25 for Chaldine, and 6.0 Indestructible. Team Chaldine, first of all. I'm one of them, as is Don, as is Rixie. Go on, Dom.
Yeah, look, it's a pity that it's only a 3-horse race for the Champagne Stakes, but it's interesting. He beat Silver Knot at Newbury back in July. That was Silver Knot's debut, so he's obviously progressed from then. He's won his next 2, but Chaldine has improved as well from that. Like in winning the ACOM last time, I thought Michael O'Callaghan's horse was actually coming to beat him. He came up on the outside, but you had to love the way that Chaldine battled once he was probably headed, at least joined. And like for an inexperienced horse to do that, it was only his 3rd run. Well, they're all inexperienced, obviously, but just the way that he got down, dug deep, and got up and got the better of Indestructible and went on and won well. To me, it's a horse who really wanted it. and Indestructible reopposes, and there shouldn't be much between them again. But I just think Charlie, and he'd been in front from about 3 furlongs out that day. He was probably idling when his rival came to him. He picked up Madonna again. So look, I just think he's a worthy opponent for Silver Knot, whom he's beaten before. Silver Knot was good in winning the Solario last time and quickened up well and went to the line strongly. So you can see the case for him. There are a lot of unknowns in there, but I just think at the prices, I think Chaldean, there's no real reason that I can see why Indestructible should reverse places with him, for all that he's a talented horse. And I think Chaldean, for all that, the fact that they're all progressive juveniles, I think he should be closer to Silver Knot in the betting than he is.
He's a very impressive physical specimen as well. I was really taken with him at York. Rixie?
I agree with plenty of what Don said there. The only thing I would say is obviously Frankie replaces Ryan Moore. I think they're two great jockeys, two maybe kind of contrasting styles. I think it's fair to say Ryan is a good bit stronger than Frankie. So that would be a little bit of a worry. I think Frankie needs to go a gallop here. I was really impressed on the clock with what Shannon did at York. He carved out some seriously good fractions on ground with plenty of juice in it, and he stayed well. I think he's definitely going to stay a mile. I would say with him the last couple of times when Shannon won, I think it was he pricked his ears and he had plenty left when he got to the front. And then he did it again at York, and it looked like he was going to get swatted up and battled back. So he does keep a bit for himself here, and he's got a good pedigree as well. He's by Frankel. I think he's a half brother to that good 2-year-old of Marcus Tregoning's Alcumate. I think he won the 2-year-old the Middle Reef at Newbury. So he's got a good 2-year-old pedigree as well, and he stays well. I like Silver Knot. What Silver Knot did the last day at Sandown visually was very good. I just thought maybe the race fell in his lap a little bit. There was quite a few horses in there that ran a little bit keen, and he was another one at Sandown as well who probably had run of the race in terms of kind of he made his early run in the straight quite wide, which I think has been very good at Sandown this year. So yeah, I just thought that the price difference between the two of them was too big. And even if I'm being completely honest here, which we always are obviously on the Matchbook podcast, Indestructible is he's probably the value bet, the pure value bet in the race, to be honest, because especially if they don't go as quick in this race, I think he might just fundamentally be a faster horse than Chandlin, who outstayed him the other day. But, Michael O'Callaghan, his horses aren't really thriving of late. It's been a good while since he's had a winner. Would be a little bit of a worry. So I just kind of, when I put it all together, I thought Chandlin was the horse to go with.
And all out on his own is Steve with Silver Knot.
Yeah, I'm not recommending a bet at odds on because I don't really bet that short. But I think this horse is top class. I think Silver Knot is a future star. I think he's going to be a star next season. He won the Solario Stakes at Sandown last time in the manner of I was just so impressed with him. He'd made the running before that when winning at Kempton, and Pat Dobbs, who stepped in for James Doyle, who was injured, decided that there was too much pace on, or there was a good pace on, so he dropped him back, and he was just exceptional. I just thought that this is the best 2-year-old I think I've seen so far this season, and the fact that he's only going to get better when he goes up in distance. He's got the pedigrees, Lope de Vega, and the Dam God-given won staying races on very testing ground as well. So he's got, if anything, the softer ground, and it's not going to be desperate, obviously, at Doncaster, is going to help a little bit. And when he goes up again, I can see him winning this, and I can see him then going to Doncaster for the end of season for the first and futurity and winning that. And then next year, I think he's going to be a star. I was surprised he wasn't in the Derby, to be honest, but maybe Lope de Vega, I don't think he's going to quite stay that far, but there's loads of stamina on the Dam side. So he'd have to be supplemented for that. But if he's as good as I think he is, then it'd be money well spent. And that's getting a bit ahead of the game at Epsom next June. But I just think he's a star. I think he's very, very good. And I think he'll win, but I won't be backing him, but I will be cheering him.
Let's move on to the Park Stakes. Kinross is 2.0. Garris is 6.0. Sacred is 7.5. Alsa Hale, 9.0. Put it up last time. Double or Bubble 10.0. Bigger prices thereafter. A couple of shouts for Kinross with Rixie and Steve. Straight back at you, Steve.
Yeah, I just thought he was very solid. It's obviously he's favourite, and he's not a especially big price, and he's not overpriced. But I just think he's very, very solid. This horse, this is his distance, no doubt about it. There's so limited opportunities for 7 furlong horses, but he's running most of them. He was only beaten a neck in the Lennox Stakes at Goodwood, and then he was very good at York, in the city of York. So again, that was on faster ground, but he's probably better on softer ground, and he's just got. I think he's bulletproof at this sort of distance. And when you look at the opposition, Sacred, I think, is best fresh. Al Sahela wouldn't be convinced about. And although Gareth, that form last time from Deauville is very, very good, because he was third to Highfield Princess, who won the Nunthorpe, and Minzal, who won the Sprint Cup. I'd want to see him back that up. He's got a bit of an in and out profile, and whether 7 furlongs is quite. I know it's 6.5 at Deauville last time in the Morris de Geese, but 7 furlongs. Yeah, I just think a horse like Kinross is bulletproof at this trip.
You agree, Rixie?
Yeah, I'd agree. I just I would want at least 3.0 here, and maybe even a little bit bigger to back Kinross, because he's got a penalty, which isn't ideal. And the other thing with him is there doesn't seem to be a lot of pace on the race. I think he thrives off a good gallop over this trip with cutting the ground. But I just favoured him over Gareth, even with the penalty, just because he's more consistent. He's been rock solid all season. I think it just in terms of on last runs, in terms of value betting, and when you factor in the weights, I think Gareth is definitely kind of the overvalue. He's definitely overpriced. But as Steve said, up and trip, softer ground, and he seems to save his best form recently for Deauville. So I just thought, in a race where lots of horses would have wanted quicker ground, I thought Kinross was the solid selection. But I'm 3.0 is the absolute bottom that I'm willing to bet him up with under the penalty.
Okay, worth keeping an eye on the prices then. And Don?
Yeah, I'm with Gareth. I just think, he's overpriced. He is interested in stepping up to 7 furlongs. He's only run over 7 furlongs once before in his life, and it was kind of inconclusive. He kept on well at the end of the season at Newmarket last year. But yeah, run in the Premier League, that was a phenomenal run. Like Princess won the Nunthorpe, Minzal won the Sprint Cup. Rohan, even who was fourth behind him, he finished third behind Minzal in the Sprint Cup. So the form is rock solid. Now crowned the July Cup runner-up. He was fifth behind him. I take Declan's point that he does seem to run well at Deauville. He won there last year as well, back at the August meeting last season. But on his run in the Aberdeen Stakes, he was only beaten a short head by Double or Bubble in that, when he was keeping on. The Maurice de Geese is 6.5 furlongs. He was keeping on at the end of that. So I think he's worth another try at 7 furlongs for all that it does seem, especially this trip. Double or Bubble was interesting as well. I just think the ground might be a wee bit on the soft side for her. She battled on well to win at Goodwood last time, and she is a 7 furlong filly. But I just, even at the price, I was kind of going to allow for the ground for her at the price. But I think Gareth is more solid. He's into the race in good form. I think the step up and trip will be a positive for him as a 6-year-old now, and he goes well on the ground as well. So I think plenty of positives for Gareth.
Gareth, Don, I'm sitting this one out. We move on to the St Leger, where New London is 2.0, Eldorov is 6.5, Hu Yamal is 7.5, Haskoy 8.0, double figures thereafter. I'll just kick off with Hu Yamal, who I really don't think gets the credit he deserves, because he's been bought by Australian connections, is going out to a Melbourne Cup. It seems to be half forgotten this horse was second in a derby. I thought was really good last time, albeit in an easy race. Interestingly, he put the tongue tie on. Gay Waterhouse is very involved in his training, I hear, and George Bowie is he knows how to prep these types of horses. He's won a classic, and I think he's just a bit forgotten, really, at 7.5. I think he should be. I definitely think he should be second in the betting. So he's a bet for me, win and place. Steve.
Yeah, look, New London's very solid. Is obviously the standout horse in the profile is, and there's Leger winners in his pedigree, Mars Marvel, and so you'd expect him to stay, but he's just too short in a competitive race for me. And I think the one that's been largely ignored, who's got in ability-wise, I think when you consider horses like Alderov and Huya Mel and Haskell, they've actually been allowed to show more than Giavalotti, who I thought was really impressive last time at Newmarket. And I think this horse, it's just taken a little time to progress. He was a little bit immature, a little bit raw. He was only made his debut in December when he won a couple of times on the all-weather. And since then, he's been progressive in the handicaps, and he's worn a hood the last twice. And if that is the key, I think this is a very high-class horse. And one thing this horse does is gallop, and he handles soft ground. And if there are stamina doubts of any of the others, then he'll expose them, and he could easily run into a place. And it's not beyond the realms of possibility, if New London, say, didn't stay, that he could actually win this race. And he's what, 26.0, Giavalotti. So I'm going to take a chance. I wouldn't back him big, but it's a small chance with him just at the prices, because I think there is a good horse, a real good stayer in there.
Win and place Giavalotti is a big price, Don.
Yeah, look, you have to respect New London. He's the right favourite, and the right clear favourite is winning the Gordon Stakes. From Dover Legend, the form is working out well as well. So he's the one they have to beat. I think Haskell, very interesting. The fact that supplemented her, the run on the Park Hill yesterday, but they decided to supplement her to the Leger, which to me is very interesting. I thought she was seriously impressive winning on her debut at Wolverhampton, and then last time in the Galta Stakes at York, she didn't look a winner for much of the race, only the very end of it, and she had to make a ground on the far side, probably on the worst of the grounds. So she did really well to stay on as well as she did. That was over 1.5 miles. She races and she's she'll get further as well. So she's very interesting. She's a relatively late comer into the Leger picture. But I do like French Claim, Paddy Toomey's horse. He was entered in the Group 3 1.5 mile race at Leopardstown tomorrow as well, but they've decided to skip that and go on to the St Leger. There is a wee bit of a worry in terms of stamina. He's by French 15, who is essentially a miler, but his half brother won over 1.5 miles, I think, and he's been ridden like he stays. He races like he'll stay, and he holds an entry in the Irish. So Paddy Toomey thinks he'll stay, and to me that's good enough. Like his what he did at Cork on his debut this season was phenomenal. He just got in front. He was still green. He came 9 lengths clear of Sussex and Great Max. That was on soft ground. So if the rains keep on coming, that will be a big positive, I think, for French Claim. His next 2 runs, he ran against Stone Age in the Darbistown or the Derby trial at Leopardstown, and he tried to match pace, match strides, or just lie up in behind Stone Age, and that probably cost him the runner-up spot. And last time in the Irish Derby, he led for a long way. Look, no answer to Westover, but he kept on well to finish 3rd, and on ground was probably on the quick side for him. So back on softer ground, up in trip, representing Paddy Toomey, who's got a phenomenal strike rate, as we know. Like he just doesn't run horses in races that they can't be in which they can't be competitive. So he's still a likely race horse as well. He's only had 5 runs, so hopefully the rains will keep coming. And for me, French Claim is a bet win in place. Yeah.
And Rixie, the 4th selection.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to take on New London and Yohamal at the prices, especially New London. Obviously, he's around the 2.0. I just think both are very similar. They both can get a little bit warm. They're quite sharp. They've got a lot of class, kind of got a lot of pace. And I just wonder, going up in trip, especially if Doncaster get any more rain, could they just be? Could the Petrolite be running a little bit late? You know, New London, he did win last time out at the Gordon Stakes in a well-run race over 12 furlongs, but that was good to firm ground. The horse he beat, Dover Legend, had a penalty. Yuhumal that day clearly needed the race. So I'm going to go with Elder Elderoff in this race. I just think that basically any more rain that comes is going to suit him. The bigger the stamina test, the better his chance. I thought he did unbelievably well to run down Zechariah at Royal Ascot, given where he started his run at the top of the straight. In France, then on quick ground in the Group 1 Grand Prix de Paris, he just simply, the combination of the drop and trip on quick ground, he didn't have the gears for. I like he's coming in here fresh. The Roger Varian team are red hot, and yeah, I'm just hoping that the more rain and the more of a stamina test, the better his chances.
Okay, that's the 4 different selections. Take your pick for the Cazoo St Leger. Best lays and best bets coming up next. Just literally your selection for best lay and best bets. No need for an explanation. Rixie and I going head to head with the best lays. Well, sort of, first of all. My best lay is going to be Verdani for all the reasons laid out a little bit earlier on. Rixie, you've got a lay?
Yeah, my best lay is going to be Mishriff in the Irish Champion Stakes, 2 places. I think soft ground is against him, and I don't think he's the same horse this season.
Okay, and my best bet off the back of that, these are the £25 charity bets, which our producer Dan Hussey will place on the Matchbook account, £1,000 guaranteed for racing welfare. My best bet is Mishriff in the Irish Champion Stakes. Don, your best bet?
Best bet, French Claim in the St Leger at Doncaster for all the reasons, as long as hopefully the rains keep on coming. What do I get? 12.50 each or win 12.50 place, is it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you have half a point win, half a point place. Rixie, you're looking at the same race?
Yes, I'm going to go Elder off, as I just in the St Leger live on Sky Sports Racing, the oldest classic in the world. He will do for me, and for reasons that I outlined about a minute ago.
And Steve, your best bet?
Yeah, in the Portland Handicap, Count Dorsey winning place in the Doncaster race, live on ITV.
I love it. Good stuff.
Yeah. That won't get you the gig, Jonesy. That won't get you the gig, mate.
I'll be at
Nothing will.
Down tomorrow with Don for all the action live on Racing TV from Irish Champions Weekend.
Oh, this is just great. We've disgraced ourselves ending this pod.
Don, it'll be on RTE as well. Don, great stuff. Steve, well done.
Thanks,
Enjoy the racing this weekend, all. It's top stuff. Bye-bye.